David Paul, filmmaker, artist, musician, poet, one of the most creative bodybuilders you're ever going to meet, an inspiring speaker. You're going to enjoy this interview as I did. Why do you create art?
Why do I create art? I believe creating makes you closer to the creator. Whenever you're creating, no matter who you are, no matter what it is, that's where you get your God energy, I believe. So whenever I'm creating, whether it's painting, doing photography, writing, singing, whatever it is, then it's like that's your connection to the source, the ultimate to connections. It's like Michael said, when a monk has to go into a cave and just like sit there and meditate, and I do yoga and meditate also, but instantly when you're doing your art, you're right there, you know. And it's not really you doing the art. It's that energy which is doing the art through you.
Now, your path to becoming an artist is not the typical path. You did have a little bit of art teaching,
Yeah.
but you started your life as a bodybuilder. Connect the dots. Bodybuilding.
Well, really, I was always an artist, you know. And then when I started bodybuilding, that was an art form too, because back then, in my eyes, that physique in the 80s and 90s, it appealed to me. So my body became the art, and the chisel was the weights. And so that was another kind of art form, but it wasn't a healthy art form, because bodybuilding is acidic. So, you know, when you're eating all that protein and there's drugs involved, all that is acid. It's all acid. And so through my walk, through all the, you know, I started looking back at how I grew up, and like, I wanted to figure everything out, because when you're little, you look up at grown-ups and you think they have all the answers and the wisdom is there, but then when you grow up, you realize that they don't know anything. And so I started, you know, really going. You can't learn in books can't teach you. That's someone else's, you know, what they've gone through or whatever, you know. But it's not. The best university is the university of life, and it's the hardest things that I've gone through that were my lessons. That were like I was paralyzed for a year, and like it was the worst experience of my life. But I was on a downward like spiral. It was like, you know, wake up, you know, you're doing the wrong thing. You know, it's like, hello, is anyone there? It's like, slow down and like start looking at your life and what really is important, what really means something. And even when I was bodybuilding, it was all for ego and narcissism, and like, you know, like I couldn't go in the gym without being the strongest person in there and trying to outdo everybody. And it was, you know, when I was extremely dyslexic. My first 3 years of school, I was kicked out of kindergarten for biting the teacher, actually, because she reprimanded my brother. I have a twin brother. But anyways, in third grade, I was removed out of the school system. I couldn't read, and I was sent from doctor to doctor to doctor and psychiatrist. And then finally in New York, a psychiatrist said that I had the worst case of dyslexia they've ever seen in New York. And I couldn't differentiate between a square or a rectangle, an oval or a circle. And I had no hand-eye coordination, but I had really good balance, and I had strength. So whatever your strengths are, that's where you tend to go, you know, in your life. And I always was like, looked at things in a different way. And my mother recognized it, so she took me to art museums and pushed me into the arts. And I was given a camera when I was like 13 years old. I built all my parents' furniture when I was 13, building cabinets. And my mother always used to say, David, the only thing you really need in life, like the biggest thing, is a house. And she goes, you can build your own. So the first thing I did when I came to LA, I did a film called DC Cab. Joel Schumacher was the director. And with that money, I went to Topanga Canyon, bought property, and I built a house from the ground up, dug the foundations with a shovel, and built the whole house.
On the level of happiness experience, how happy did building your own house make you?
there's a lot of fulfillment in building your own house because you're doing art. You know, it was like an art project for years. It still is until, you know, my ex-wife came in and I'm an artist and I'm not a paper person, and she went into the court system and literally I gave her half the house anyway. They stole my whole house, holding the left hand of the court and the right hand of a cop, and they stole my house from me. But it's, you know, that's all material stuff, and really that none of that makes you happy, you know.
Of the things that make you happy right now, what are the things that are making you most happy over the last several weeks and months?
I love creating. Like I said, creating makes you closer to the creator. And, you know, I used to, even when I would do a photo shoot, and you know how you plan your things out and you go, this is the way it's gonna be? Well, it never goes the way you plan. There's always an obstacle to get across. Something happens. And then I realized, you know, just let it go and just follow whatever will be. I call it following the light. It's a metaphor, the light or the light, you know, like whatever, and just whatever happens, whatever will be, and it's going to be that place. Now, my nickname I call myself is the abstract alkaline alchemist. And I say, if you take that approach in life, think in the abstract, make your body alkaline, and an alchemist turns sand into gold. So say, I'm going on that photo shoot and I don't get to this place and it takes me to another place. Well, it was for a reason. It's a better reason, and it's going to come out better. Or if you're traveling down the road and you get a flat tire, instead of, oh my God, I'm going to be late for RM, well, I could have went on and gotten an accident. And so this is a good thing. So every single thing that happens to you, turn that sand into gold, make that, you know, a beautiful thing, and then make your body alkaline. That's what I'm saying. When I was bodybuilding, I was an acidic pig, and like everything is acid. And now, you know, people don't realize how important it is. Like, it's not just what you eat that's going to make you alkaline. It's like what room you're in, your girlfriend, what car you drive, who you're talking to, because your mental state is so important. You know what I mean? And it's love is like, you know, you want to feel, you know, beautiful all the time. That's why abstract feelings are important, because if you go walk outside in front of the moon is the moon is the moon. But if it makes you feel calm or whatever that feeling that moon gives you, that's an abstract feeling. Use those feelings because they're real, and your pituitary is releasing that love or whatever it is that's giving you those feelings, and that also is making you alkaline. So, you know, if you're hurt and you're pissed off and you're in a bad mood, no matter what you're eating, you're still going to be a sick person, because your own body is going to produce acid from the pituitary, and it's going to make you sick. You're going to get ill. So that's why creating, when anyone's creating their art, whether you're writing or you're doing this film, when you're in that mode and you're doing what you're doing or you're editing it, it's all love, because you're doing what you love to do. Work is not work. Work is not work if you do what you love to do. If you're doing what you love to do, you're not going to work, you're going to love. And then when you leave, you're going home to love, because you love the one you love. So, you know, people tend to go, they need a television to make them think that's going to make them happy, or a new car is going to make them happy, or they're always looking for that material thing. But in the end, that material thing, it's not going to make you happy. It's going to be miserable, because you have to have the internal happiness that only can come when you're creating.
Talk a little bit about balance. You use the terms acid and alkaline, which have to do with balance.
Yeah.
You talked about balance as a young boy. Part of your aerobic weightlifting was all about balance and the body. So talk a little bit about what balance means to you and how balance relates to happiness.
Yeah, I think balance is so important too, because, you know, and I'm one of those person, whatever I do, I like put 150% of my energy into it. And I'm like, you know, you could call me at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2. When that phone call comes, I'm not going to get pissed at you. I'm I'm happy. I'm happy you're calling. You know, the balance in life is like, you know, you really do have to kick back and smell the roses, and like make everything, like that's what it is to be an alchemist, turn sand to gold. It's like, who wants to do the dishes, like Michael said, or who wants to, you know, if you have to go over here and walk over there. But I want to be healthy all the time too. So wherever you're going, think about that you're exercising constantly. So you're going to, oh, I'm doing, this is fun because I'm exercising. So just think it as a positive thing, and then it becomes fun, and everything is a game. It's all in your mind. Everything is a mind. If you want to be happy, you know, but then there's things that can, you know, that just, it's creating, that when you're creating art, you know yourself as an artist, it's the best thing. And I think every person on the planet is an artist. If you get up in the morning and you put your clothes on, you pick those clothes out, so you're an artist because you know, that's an art form. You're a designer. You're making your own design. You're making yourself look the way you want to look. That I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. That I'm probably, you know, I'm a little eccentric, little of this, little of that. But like, you know, are you happy? Be happy. If you don't like what clothes I'm wearing, I made my pants, you know, I made my jewelry. Like, I'm making myself happy. You might not be happy looking at me, and it may disturb you, or you're not comfortable. But if I'm happy in that body, dressing the way I am, being who I am, why not be happy for me and go, hey, that guy's weird, but isn't he happy? What's wrong with that? Do you think that's a bad thing to be happy? Huh? But if you went to a mental institution, they're gonna go, you know, what's wrong with you? Why are you always happy? We have to give you some meds. You know why? Because you're manic. And then if you're depressed, you know, you're a little depressed, I think we should give you a pill because, you know, you should be much happier. And why is that shirt on backwards? Why, look at my shirt's on backwards. You know, why, but I was creating a line of clothes called Inside Out, because it's not what you have outside, it's what you have inside. And I want you to remember that. And the psychiatrist goes, you know, you're nuts, your shirt's inside out. Are you crazy? You know, and then I look at his shirt, and well, it says Nike on your shirt. There's a label on yours, so you have a label on, you know, and so on and so forth. It can go on forever. People in America, they want to be on a pill. They want to get sick, you know. It's a sickness. Everything is a cure. It's a simple thing, and nothing is that easy. You know, when you go through, I've had so much soul searching, man. Like, I could cry, you know, like, it's just...
What did you just hit on there? Because you've overcome a lot.
Yeah.
And you're a total individual. Like, I've never met anyone like
Mm-hmm.
you. What were some of the things? Because it helps other people to hear. Because right now, just looking, I was like, you seem, you know, you had a divorce, big deal. You got your life more or less together.
No, it's the worst things that happen to you are the blessings, and it's like, you know, and no matter, it's like that Secret movie, you know, writing down this, and your dreams are gonna kind of unfold. You could be the most talented and have. I wrote a musical. I had offers from DreamWorks, Disney, and Fox, and I turned them down. My ego was so big. I wanted to direct the film, and then a smaller company was letting me, and then it fell through, and the money didn't come through. But like, you know, you have to, you know, my point is you can have the best thing, and you know, look at what comes out in the movie theaters. To me, it's so much crap out there. There was a King Takamata, and he goes, you're Dr. Takamata. You can't talk about anything. But my brother plays with words, and like, he's a genius. You know, he created this whole silly sort thing, which it should have been made 100 times over. It's the most genius thing in 11 years. We did movies. We were making a lot of money as both of us. As we started in 10 movies, and we quit to do, because it was just, we were these pumped up androids on steroids. And like, when you're like that, people do not care. They're not going to listen to one word you say. They're so overwhelmed by that physical presence. They're scared, and they don't know what to think. You could go out and recite Shakespeare, and the review will go, he oohed and ahed, because they're just so overwhelmed by the physical presence. And you can't get any respect. I mean, we did comedies, and we're a completely perfect comedic team. We're in the same room together, right? So we have this connection that no one has. And like the Marx Brothers, you know, the Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, these are comedic geniuses. But when you're big and 270 pounds and you do comedy, you're not a comedic genius, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're a moron, you know? But that's the public, that's what you're selling to, that's what you're, you know, people, it's McDonald's, man. That's what that movie, The Secret, was. It's McDonald's. They want the easiest thing, the quickest thing. And anything that you want to be great at, you can and you will be great at. But you know what you have to do? You have to be persistent. You have to practice, and you have to love it. And if you do, and you do that every day, you're going to eventually, don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to pursue. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. At the very least, you'll have more self-respect. At the very best, you'll attain things you never thought were possible. I was making so much. I was making $3,000 to $7,000 a day as a photographer. Now it's not like that anymore. And like sometimes I don't even. I have a deal with Brown Trout Publishing. They're doing David Paul art calendars for 2012. But I'm just on this roller coaster, and I'm just looking at like I'm in a movie, and I'm gonna go, what's gonna unfold here? Because love brings everything. It's like what you give out should come back. But then there's karma, and like, what did you do in your last lifetime? Because if shit's happening, my mother is the best lady on the planet. She was the best mother to me. I mean, she understood my disability. She took me to, she pushed me to the arts. She understood. She didn't care what I was kicked out of school in 3rd grade. I was with nuns, 5 kids in a class, and I missed all that. I missed all that stuff that they teach you, about history and what, I don't know how many states and what's in this state and that state and how you spell them. Who gives a shit? It's like I've never read a book. I've read one book in my life. It's Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and that's my Bible. It's like he was different. He didn't want to be a seagull. He wanted to fly faster. He wanted to be a hawk and bring in, they're the fastest flyers, and bring in his wings and figure out, if he shortens his wings that he could fly faster. And he overcame all this, and everyone laughed at him, but he became and then he learned, then he thought he was going fast, and a goal was next to him and just not even moving a muscle. And he's like, how do you do that? And because, and he teaches him with your mind, and you can travel. And then that's been my philosophy my whole life. You don't have to. If you're going to follow someone else, you're going to be like someone else. What's wrong with being different and following your own, your own path? And, but then you always have I was the worst time in my life. Everyone goes, man, when you were huge and you were this, did the movies, and that was my most miserable time. Because I would go home and I was writing. Me and my brother were signed. We were rappers we were with Dick Scott. And we'd go in, but they were so scared of us, like physically. And we would go in and they'd go, well, why don't you have a song about this? Whatever they said, we had a song. We were such prolific writers. Boom, boom, boom. We were doing stuff with electric guitars. It took, back then they didn't even have it. Like we were so ahead of the time, but like, it's because that's what I'm saying. You could be great at something, but you know what? The door's not going to open for you. So just flow in your life. Flow like a river. Be that stick on the water. And you know how the stick goes, and then there's a rock, and it just stays there for a second, but then it goes around it. But it flows. It feels good. It's not like, I learned everything, the Kabbalah and Christianity and Catholic, all of them, read this, that. But you know what? And they all have, the most important thing is, what do they all have? They all love, forgiveness, kindness, compassion, understanding. But then that guy leaves the church, and there's a guy on the ground, and he doesn't stop to help the guy. You know what I mean? Or like, the Kabbalah is an energy thing. I told the teacher, I go, you're a great teacher, but you don't, he told one of the kids in the class to shut up and stuff. And like, I'm going, you're here teaching this, but you're not even like this. You stopped his energy. He was a guy that wants to know what you know, and you're telling him he's stupid because he didn't understand what you said. So, you're a great teacher, but you're not practicing what you preach. Why don't you practice what you preach? It's like taking a screwdriver. Me and my brother used to do in the house. All our sockets were blown out because when we were little, we were curious, and we take this screwdriver and ram it into the socket, and boom, watch the sparks fly out. And all our sockets were black, but we were stopping the energy. We should have learned them, but we were so stubborn. It's like, David, wake up, time again and again. I'm the slowest learner. I've always been so stubborn, now I should have. My father's a smart guy, and they didn't want me to do drugs, to do steroids. It's hurting you. Every athlete because you want to be the best you can be, and you got to do that drug like the baseball players. They're pointing the fingers at these athletes, these super athletes that are hitting the home runs, that are on the steroids, and they're going, let's take their crowns away. But what they don't realize is all the guys under him that aren't hitting those home runs are still on the drugs too, because they want to be that good. It's making them better. Babe Ruth and them, they didn't have those drugs, but that's today's society. It's like you want to be the best that you can be. You know what I mean? And your ego when you're younger, and you want to do this, and you want to be the best. You know what I mean? But the best isn't being the best. The best is being happy. The best is doing what you love to do. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about one person who's a friend of yours who is the best in the world.
Who's that?
Shaun White.
Shaun White, yeah.
Let's talk a little, because Shaun seems to be a model that is doing it the right way.
Yeah, he's like, Shaun White, for a year I shot extreme sports. I would take any job in this company. I shoot sequences with my camera, so ESPN, they shoot, you're not supposed to go in there with a video camera, so I'd go in there with a still camera and go tick, 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 and then I would do an edit and make it look like, and have the thing on the internet right away. And when I was shooting Shaun White, he liked my work. I go, this is what I'm doing, and he took me up on ramps, and I concentrated on him, because he was the best, and the best at what he does, and it interests me, and he's just someone like he's blessed with that talent. And he's doing what he loves to do, and I'm not really friends with him or anything, but anybody that's at that level, they're living their dream. You know what I mean? They're at the top of what they do, and and it's not even if you're the best at what you're doing, you're practicing, you're living that every single day. There's not an easy way. You're not going to go, you're not going to be the best at something. Raw natural talent is one thing, but to be the best, you have to have the raw natural talent, and then you have to practice, and you have to pursue it, and you have to be there physically, mentally, spiritually, every way. There's no easy way. And then you might be the best at something, and that door just isn't going to open for you, especially if you're in the arts. Sports, the best guy, the cream rises to the top. In sports, unless it's gymnastics or something that you have to have a style or a dive or something that could be fixed or whatever. But in athletics, the winner is going to, prevail.
Okay, good. I think we got plenty.
Let me do one more thing.
Okay.
So once this guy wanted to do a show with me and Peter, and he knew us from our movies. The lady. And she goes, oh my God, I would never do anything with those guys. And I'm like to the producer, you know what? If she thinks that that's who we are, who we portrayed in the movie, that is exactly why you want to do work with us today, because we're exactly not what that is. That's the stereotypical thing that we were playing. And if you learn to listen for a second, so I went out home and I go, I want to write this lady a letter. Who I am, what I've gone through. So I wrote The Realization, because anyways, I started doing yoga and eating all raw, and I started channeling. I would get up in the morning and these words would come to me. Talk about Harvard. A Harvard literary guy, he read my book. It's called Dinner for One. And he was like, David, we didn't even get stuff like this in school. Like I don't know how you're writing this stuff. And anyways, this voice was coming to me for 85 days. I wrote a meditation every day. So anyways, this is called The Realization. Most of them don't rhyme, but this does it. I wrote it into a song too, but it goes, how does it feel when you get to the point in your life when nothing you do is wrong because you know you're being led by a greater light? The no's and the maybes thinking you're crazy, pushing you harder, you've never been lazy. You can't possibly meet me and know who I am when your head is buried so deep in the sand, and no matter what I say, you will never understand. I come from the place where there is no race, no color of skin, no religion or sin, no judges, nor jackals, nor thieves, if you please, no mistakes in this walk, only lessons to be taught, and the less that you think is so good for your thought. So I walk down this path with my head in my hand, always knowing God has a greater plan. And it's not about what I want or what I think. And if I turn the wrong way, I shall sink. But only for a moment in time, just enough to create a new rhyme so I can free myself and go on and realize that my fall was a stepping stone. And that when I'm alone, I'm never alone. And where I'm led is my real home. How much the universe sees. How many times do I lose my keys? I thank God on bended knee, for he has bathed me in tears, so I receive open ears. Roots that travel deep in the ground, planting me and holding me down, so I am fed and sound.
Speedy.
but it's looking up. I'm hungry and thirsty with an empty cup. Life isn't easy, but I love to live. I ain't got much money, but I love to give. Now I'm not a minister, but I love to preach. Never liked school, but I love to teach. Not a great singer, but I love to sing. And I'll write a song about anything. And the years, they gone by me, and it's too late to go back again. All my ghosts are behind me, creeping up now and then. Playing this old guitar makes me a happy man. Playing this old guitar makes me a happy man. Now I'm not a doctor, but I love to heal. I'm not psychic, but so much I feel. Don't go to church, but God's in my heart, and I don't know much about art. Now I'm not a poet, but I love to write. I'm a lover, though sometimes I fight. Love the ocean, but rarely swim. I'm not brave, but I'll go out on a limb. In the years, they gone by me, and it's too late to go back again. All my ghosts are behind me, creeping up now and then. Playing this old guitar makes me a happy man. Playing this old guitar makes me a happy man.